Hello everybody and welcome to another tutorial in camera and lens repair. And this time, well, I will, one of my friend asked me to, if I could take a look at his Ai-s Nikkor 105mm 1.8. And it has a really stiff focus ring, which is quite common on this kind of this lens actually, and well, it actually looks pretty good, but the focus ring is very tight. So I actually took well, I was in the lens and make some sneak peek what could I mean about the measure how long the lens is actually on from the very front. I mean not I mean without the front ring and the yeah, lens hood, and of course without the mount. So but let's have a look what we can do about it. We need some tools, at least a caliper to measure how the distance, and some tools, some different stuff, at least a 2.5mm JIS screwdriver, which is really, I mean, it's the tool you use in Japanese lenses. So you can see here is a 2.5 JIS. That's important. Of course, we will also need a, not this one, but we will use a 1.2mm flathead screwdriver, and this is a brand called Vera, which I like, and some tweezers can also be very handy. A dented tweezer with dented tips and a very pointy one. We will also use some dentist tool to make some scratch like this with a very pointy tip, or you could use another tool which I actually like very much. It's a tool called Flex-I file sorry, and you can see it here. It's a ultra fine needle point scriber, which you can actually exchange the pointy scriber and you can change the needle, which have two different kind. I will link in the description below so you can see where you can get it. I get it in a small scale builder's shop, which is really good. Now we also need some brushes, and two different, one for actually cleaning the thread, the helicoid thread, and one for adding new grease. Cotton buds, a few cotton buds will also be very handy, and isopropyl alcohol 99%. You could probably also use some 80 or, well, yeah, 70%. I don't know. I only use this one, and I think I will go for the grade 10 from Japan Hobby Tool. Maybe because this lens have two different thread size, so maybe we'll also use the liquid moly LM47. I don't know yet, but I haven't been so deep into the lens, so but we will need to, I mean, the focus is extremely hard to turn, so if I really I mean it's really hard on the focusing ring. Even the rubber is a bit old and stiff and that, so we'll probably also take that off. But at least I have a little set screw, and this is all it begins with. You do not, if you take off the mount, you will not be able to take out the mount itself, because it's the diameter of the lens, I mean the focusing system, so you cannot just pull it out. No. So what we want to do is unscrew the, I mean, you could just loosen it, this tiny set screw with the 1.2 millimeter flathead screwdriver, as you can see here. Just loosen it, just a few turns. So that's fine. I mean, it should be fine. We can just have another turn. So that should be enough. Now unscrew the front barrel here, and it should be quite, it can be a little stiff, but it was not the case in here. Now have the lens like this, so you turn it, and then you can take off the front ring with the lens hood on. Do not press too much in here, because you will probably damage the screw head. You can see, I mean, not the screw head, but probably the aluminum lens hood, or the fabric in here could be damaged or something. Well, put it aside, and then we have the lens assembly, and we could set it to 22 aperture, and it should be fully closed. So you can see, if I wiggle with the little aperture connection pin, it looks like it's a bit worn out, but I think it will be okay. But the point is, you have the little screw here. It's not a screw. It's actually for adjusting a little, so you can adjust the lens, I mean the the lens assembly in a way, one way or the other. But do not turn it. No. You just simply pull out the whole lens assembly out, and you could probably make some notes here. This pin is actually the pin where the aperture ring here, you can see the gap here is actually the connection pin to this pin here. So you could set a little mark here, so you know which side it should be when you put it in. It should not be over here, because then you cannot put it in. I mean, yeah, you can, but then you have to have this pin fully open. So it's just better, in my opinion, to have it all the way so the aperture is fully closed. And then the moving pin here is connection to this pin that goes from the back here. So now put the lens assembly aside, and we will not work with that. So now you can see here we can actually take off the mount. You can see why it's impossible to take off the mount, because if the lens assembly is inside here, you will not be able to see it's bended a little, so you will not be able to actually take off the mount if you have the lens assembly in here. So then we need to take off the 5 screws here on the back, and we will also take off the the aperture ring. It sits with 2 screws here that hold the this part in here. If the screws here is quite stuck or really hard to move, it's actually quite normal, then we will use some isopropyl alcohol. You could also use some, which I sometimes use, nail polish remover with acetone, or you could just use pure acetone, but the isopropyl alcohol does not stink as much as the, but well, it is up to you. Now we'll just add a few drops here on the screw head and let it sit, let it suck in under the screw, and then we could let it sit. It will go deep into the thread, and then it will be a lot more easy if there is any thread lock in here. Well, this is quite old lens, so and there could be something, but not necessarily. See, the screws are actually quite nice. So here, it's not really that hard to go into the focusing ring, focusing assembly, but we need to make some marks, set some marks at, especially at infinity, because that's where it begins, in my opinion. Maybe you have another reference in disassemble helicoids. But so now we have the mount, and it can be off, as you can see here. You see, if the lens assembly is in, you will not be able to move it, because you need to put it off center and out. So this is why it is important. So maybe you can go in here. No, it's not really possible. So in my opinion, now then we will take off the maybe wait a little. Yeah, I think I will take off the aperture ring 2, and it sits with 2 screws that is not really hidden, but you have to look carefully on it, on the aperture ring. So off with those 2 screws, and then we are off with that part. Yeah, you see, well, I should have mentioned that. You see, when we screw out the 2 screws, it sits here on the, well, sits here on the back, and it can actually move on here. So we can probably see the screw hole here, 2 of them. Yeah, I think you can. And just let it fall out. It can only sit in one way, so that's it's not a big problem. So then we can take off the aperture ring itself, just by, see, the spring for the click is sitting up here somewhere. Yeah, somewhere here. So we can lift up here on this side, and then see, and when you put it on again, you will simply press it down, have it in something like that, my index mark in here, and you can simply put it on here. So something like that, and we should be able to do that. It's a bit stiff, but we will we'll do that, fix that. So just lift it up here somewhere and it should be off. Now it sits with a little spring in here, and it has to sit correct. It will say it does not have to sit on the other side, it will go that way. No. So we need to make a scratch. No one will see it ever, well, except if they go into the lens. But we need to make a scratch down here, all the way here, and to the very end. And you see, that's why it is so important to set marks, so you know which direction it should sit. So, and we'll just take it off. Sit with 2 small screws, crosshead, and off with that. And why I actually take off the little tiny spring, well, is simply because you cannot take off the back here and go into the focusing part of the focusing ring with all the meter and the feet, and you will also have to take off the shiny index ring, and that's important. So before we continue, I will just make sure we make some scratch, and it all begins with infinity. So we'll try to actually move it to infinity, and it's quite stiff. Well, if I have some piece of very sticky rubber, which is really good in this case, and simply hold on it and it will go there. So now we have it on infinity. It's difficult to see the index mark here, but yeah, that's it. So now that begins, and then we need to set a mark inside here. You see, there's a helicoid key here, and there's another one over here. And well, just so you know where one key should sit, this key or this key should sit on the correct side, I mean on the correct position. So I simply begin to set number 1 here. I already have been in there, so I set a mark in here, number 1 and number 1 here, and also number 1 down here. This is because then I know exactly position of this one, and there's nothing, it doesn't make common to make a mark on the other side, on the other helicoid key. So you just need the one, so you are very sure it should sit there. Now, before we continue to take off the index ring, we need to set some marks under here somewhere, and for that we'll simply dig under the rubber ring, focusing rubber ring, and it can be quite brittle because it's old, so it can break. So, but need a soft corner tool, or this is just a dentist tool, which is really good for that, or you could use a toothstick or something, but dig under it and move it at the same time, so you press it more onto the front, and very, very gently go all the way around. And sometimes it's okay to do this. So you just press on this at the same time you move the rubber thingy, and here it will come loose, and then it's off. So take good care of it. Now then we look into the let me see, there is a ring here, this with all the numbers, and it will come loose when you peel off the tape here that is actually holding the two rings together. There's no screws here, so if you just take off the tape and you just, oh well, where is my infinity or so? We can begin as I did, because we need to measure how long is it from here, from the inside, I mean the inner helicoid here, to the very back here. So, and I measure something like this, and it's just my notes as it is in this lens. It could be different in your lens. So I will measure from the very front here of the inner helicoid, part of the helicoid system, to the very back here. And how long is it actually at infinity? It should be something like 57.67, something like that. And you can see it depends on where how you hold the measure thingy, and it should be something like that, and it's all fine. And I will go, that's fine for this. So next thing is I peel off the tape, but not all the way around. I will make some scratch, and I already did in here. Just open the tape, so you see there is something in here. You have a free exposed metal here, and then use your scratch or your dentist tool or whatever you have to make scrapes on. In this case I will just make a scratch here, and that's my reference. Because, well, I could have made a scratch over here, but then I need to take off half of the tape, and I actually didn't know where the two ends of the tape is put together. It could be over here or here, so you will just need to open it up, and in that way make a reference scratch. It will not it will not be the one I will use when I when I actually unscrew the helicoid. It will be up here, because my real reference mark will be the infinity. I mean the infinity and the index mark. That's what I should say. The index mark is my reference when I unscrew the helicoids. And a good thing is this gap here is actually where the infinity is. So you have kind of a reference in the inner helicoid. But we will also use it, need one when we take off the numbered the ring where the number is, well, distance, yeah, so it should be. And also when I take off the 3 screws here that hold the index mark ring, and also the very back here, and it comes off in 2 parts. So I will just peel off this tape, and I will put on a new one when I'm done. So just put it on my desk. So now you see, since I made a scratch up here, now the distance ring is actually possible to move. So put it all the way to the where the scratch here is in line. So, and when you come up here, you actually have the index mark here, the infinity, and then I set the mark I will work with. It will say here, and then I set marks here on the distance ring, the actual focusing helicoid, and also up here on the next ring, because that's also important. And you can also set a little, which I did, set a little infinity mark here, so we know where things should sit. Now next is I can take off the do not turn anything. I mean, it's quite stiff, so it's not really possible, but well, if it's loose, you have to make sure it sits correct. Now next thing is we'll take off the 3 screws here and take off the 2 parts here on the back, and the screws are quite long. What you could do is actually, I mean, just so we are sure, you could set a mark down here in line with the index mark here, just to not confuse yourself. So, and then I will just continue with this here. Take off this ring and the last screw here, so it's out. Now then I can pull off, see the this is why it is so important to set marks, because I can just turn the distance ring, and if I didn't say set a mark, I have no idea where infinity is. So we take off the index ring, and also the very back here will come off. And the screw, well, it's quite dirty in here, so it needs a lot of a lot of cleaning. Whoa. And then I can take off the distance ring, and there will be even more dirty in here. Wow, really. So now we need to make a measure, one more measure here, and this is from the outer helicoid ring, I mean the front of the focusing ring, to this part here, not to the very back, but because it's easier to measure from here to here than from here to there. No. So we go for it here and says okay. How long? Let's also set get that clear. You have to set marks here all the way up here to this ring. Oh, wrong end. From here all the way down here. There's one ring, the 2 ring, 3 ring, not ring, but is actually the body. And you could also set a mark here where the so you're sure where everything is in line, and then put in an index mark, and also up here, and also on this, the actual helicoid. That's the middle one. So now we know that, and we can make our measure, and it should be something like 41.09. And as I wrote down here, from front of helicoid ring, focus ring, till back of the helicoid part. You see, this is the outer helicoid part here, and not the very back. That's important. You will see that's the very back. So I will also measure measure here, and it should be something like let's see if I can, something like it depends on where you set it. So here we are. Oh, difficult to see. So that's it. Oh, 0. Yeah, it's 10. Well, it's something like that. It's more difficult to measure from here to there because of the gap here. But it doesn't really matter as long as it's in that area here. So now we know that. And the next thing is I will simply unscrew the 2 helicoid key and unscrew the inner helicoid. And before doing that, I will actually make a scratch in here somewhere. It doesn't really matter where it is, but you have the helicoid key 1. So I think I will just make a scratch down here, something like that, and I will also make a scratch up here. So this is my starting point before I unscrew the inner helicoid. So I have to maybe turn it a full turn. I don't know yet because I haven't been into it. So now I have some measure, so I can begin to unscrew those 2 helicoid key. And oh, sorry. And this is important. If you use a Phillips screwdriver for tight screws, you will probably damage the screw head. This is why it is so important to use JIS. So I will unscrew it. Doesn't really sit tight. And it was the helicoid key number 1. Have a finger in here so it will not just fall off. So, and off that. It can sit a little tight, but and then we can take out the helicoid key. And this is how it looks. Nothing special, but it has a number on it that says 1. See? And it also said 1 in here, just to make sure. Now the other one will come out. Keep the screws to the what side it should sit. Before I actually, no, this is important. Not. So now the screws are out, and I can just take out the helicoid key. You see the little screw down here is actually one you can adjust, but if it's sealed with a kind of a lac here, you should not do it. It's not really that necessary. But you see, there is no grease on those. I think it looks like it's old oil. So, well, we will clean it and lube it after this. Now, since I have my mark down here, the 2 marks here, I should have an idea of which way should I turn it. And I don't know yet, but if it's possible to... wow, it's really stiff. So I need something to... You see, the actual focusing ring, you can turn it just a little, but it's really stiff. But the inner helicoid is even more stiff. And how should I do that? Is it possible to use a tool like this? No. Maybe this one? Yeah, it could be. It's just a piece of rubber from a record player, but the rubber is extremely stiff. I mean, extremely sticky. So maybe I can, if I hold on to the ring here, I can hopefully press it down and wow, it's really stiff. Maybe if I do this. No. What about the rubber cones? Is it possible to do anything? No. Let's see. It's really stiff. And I should be able to actually turn it. You see, if I turn it, the inner helicoid will just not move. What I could do is actually I could add a little lighter fluid to it. And we'll just try to add a little, because in that way to hopefully soften the thread, I mean the old grease. Could be. It's not a solution that will prevent you from not take it apart, but it could be useful in a way. But I will give it a try. So hopefully it can soften. Yeah, you can see it actually working. Kind of, huh? Well, that should be enough to just move it and figure out where does it come off the thread. So now you can turn it, and it should not be much. I have my mark here and here, so there should not be any problem. It's more the off mark that is important. Yeah, it's really quite stiff. You see, now it's more loose in a way. So I have my mark down here where I set it before I took it off. It's where the helicoid key 1 is, and then I should be able to turn it, and when it comes off you just hold it. Wow. Oh, it's actually loose in a way. So be very careful when you turn it and it comes off. You can almost feel it where it is. There. That is my off point. Wow. I do not need to screw it in again because there is so much gunk and dirt in here. So if I move it a little, see where, here it comes off. That's fine. And there it should be. So now, where is my mark here? My mark is over here, so it's actually oh, really dirty. So make sure it's off. There. Now, that's important here because it's actually a half turn over to the helicoid key 2. So I'll just make a scratch here where it comes off. And I actually make a little arrow so I will not confuse myself. So you can see here. And now I can take it off. Whoa, really, really, really dirty. So you can see, even if I use lighter fluid to loosen it, you should not screw it in again because not good. Because then it could be a problem to unscrew it. So now the next thing is the the actual focusing ring will come off of the outer helicoid, which is this part here. And which way to go? Okay, you can see I cannot go counterclockwise. I have to go clockwise so it comes off. You can see the gap here. If I go, it will be a little loose, but yeah. So I need to go clockwise to unscrew it, and that's important here. The marks here is my starting point. So if I turn the actual focusing ring, it depends on where it comes off. Let's see if it's one full turn, and I need to go a little further. I don't know where it will come off, but maybe 2 turns or so. And then it comes off. So where is it actually? Go a little backward, not really much, but it's that. It's a great one. Now set a little arrow here where the oh sorry it comes off. I was out of frame, but yeah, see, it comes off here after one and almost 2 revolution. And then I actually set a little mark here. It's just like an arrow. So this is where it should come off, and I can actually turn it almost one, and then it will come to the starting point, just to make sure where it should sit. You see my starting and 1 full revolution there, and then that's on the second turn, and it will come off there. So almost 2 turns till off. And really, really dirty helicoids. Now it's time for cleaning, and I also need to change my battery and put the, you see the front ring here is also possible to unscrew, but it's really stuck in here with some thread lock or something. I added a lot of isopropyl alcohol into the little tiny hole, but I couldn't get it off, so I don't know. It's not really necessary because it's only a cover ring, so, but let's see, a lot of gunk and dirt in here. So time to clean, so I will be soon back. Okay, after a good cleaning of the different helicoids, it looks like it turned out to be really fine. And I actually make some notes about how it's when you separate the different helicoids, and which I couldn't do before I actually took it apart, because I did not have been into the helicoids itself. So I made some notes, and then we can have a look on it at the same time as we look at the notes here. Well, just take this part here. So the inner helicoid, which actually, as I told a bit earlier, that's a good thing. I made some marks so I can just put it together as it should be, and then take it apart here. I know there is not any grease in here, but since there is not any heavy load on the thread, it should not be a problem. But so just to get that clear, this here, so there, it should be something like here. So now, as I took it apart, no, it was not the correct thread. It should be here. Click into place and then go there. Now we're here. Now this is the correct way of doing it. Well, as I measure when I took the inner helicoid apart from the middle and then the outer, there should be something like 57.67. and the inner helicoid has to turn a little more than half a turn. So if we look here, my reference mark is the index mark here somewhere, and the gap here is also in line with the index mark here. Now, if I turn the inner a little more than half a turn, so the gap here actually will come. I turn it, of course, counterclockwise. So the gap will come off around here, something like that, around 5 o'clock. If we have a reference up here as 12 o'clock. So if I turn it, see, and when the gap here is something like here, it will come off. There. And at the same time, I actually, when I took it apart earlier, you see there is an arrow down here, and it's in line with the actual mark which I set here with the pin number 1, the guide pin number 1. So that's off. Fine. And the next one is the middle helicoid, and there should be 41.09, something like that, to actually from here, not there, no, it's from here to there. And at infinity, you see here, all the lines here are in line. So if I turn it, my reference mark and my mark on the actual focusing ring here, there should be, well, almost 2 turns, almost. And the ring, this ring here, will come off at around 10 o'clock, something like that. So if we have the index mark here, it's and I actually have an arrow down here at around 10 or so. So if I turn it almost 2 turns clockwise, so we have a here, something like that, with the little screw hole here. Maybe it's in a different place like your lens, could be. But if I turn it, well, 1 up to here, and then turn it almost another full turn until it will come off at around up here. It will be something like here and there. It will be something like that, this one. So it's something like all around about 10 o'clock or so, maybe 10:30 or so. But it's just the notes I actually made after the cleaning, because then I set the mark before I took it apart, of course, but just remember to make the notes after, so it's clear. So that could be that will be a very good reminder of setting marks before you take it apart. So now we are back to normal, and the only thing I need to do is give it some grease, and I think I will go with the grade 10 from Japan Hobby Tool. And yeah, I know it separates the oil, but I will just take the white stuff, and I need a fine hair brush, and I will not go into the oily. I know it's really difficult to see on the video because it's so white. So I'll just grab on those on the side where there is not really any oil, and there shouldn't be very much on the thread. Of course there has to be some, but I will just give it a little and then put on the middle helicoid, and in that way get it to go deeper into the threads. Something like that. Doesn't have to be much, but of course. And it's a very fine grease here. I mean, it's the grade is very thin, but not too thin. So here we are. I think it should be fine enough. Then my arrow here, when it came off, and my index mark here, where it is actually here. Sorry, it was in the outside. The outside mark here, where the two helicoid meets each other. My index mark, my off mark here. It was not perfectly, but a little after the index, the arrow, and then one. I mean, it was almost one, and then the full rest of it. And then you simply give it a good movement, and it feels really good. And you see there should not be too much in here. If there is too much, well, you can simply use a cotton bud to wipe away what should be left of in here, and that's fine. Doesn't have to be fully greased inside here. So then I can simply put it on again, catch the thread, and it should be something like there. You can go a little backward and in that way catch the thread. Sometimes it's, yeah, there. And I will end it up here, where a little gap here. So I can just measure from the focusing ring to the back here. There should be something like let's see, something like, oh gosh, here. It should be something like 41.09 or so. Doesn't matter if it's so precise. So there we have it, and it's the same I actually got here. Now next thing is the inner helicoid, and I will do the same here, doing a lot of grease in here. It's a long thread, so it's of course need more into here. So here we are. Of course I will spread it more and then put it on, and in that way spread the grease in here. And since it's not really a heavy lens, but there should still be enough on the thread. But I can just screw it in and then unscrew it again, and then that way spread the grease in here. Let's see how good it will go. Now, since my off mark is here somewhere with the number 1, and inside here I also make an arrow where it came off, and it actually came off around where's my notes here, it came off around 5 o'clock in reference to the index mark. So let's see if we have it here. My index mark is here, there. My off arrow is here. So if I put it on here on the thread, this one should sit around 5 o'clock. As you can see here, where the mark is for where it came off. So I should actually just be possible to catch the thread and then turn it a little more than half a turn, as you can see here, up here. So 5 o'clock or so, my index mark is here, then turn it up to where it should be at index mark here, and in that way it should sit in line with the marks here. And then I can measure again, something like that, and it should be something like 57.67 to the back. It will say all the way back to here and up to here. So let's see how it says. Yeah, I think it's all fine, so I will stick with that, and that's it. Then I can actually put in the helicoid key, and the helicoid key also needs some kind of loop, and I will begin with the number 1. Let's see where it is. There. And yeah, I will just put it in. 2 screws. There's one here, and I can just add the grease after I put it in, and then put it on the side here. Well, maybe I should put it on first. That I think it's better, and it doesn't have to be much. Especially on the side here. And if you do in that way, you could do it in that way and simply scrape it off from the brush. It will make it a lot more easy to actually let it stay there in that way. And then you can see it will stick to the pin, the guide pin. So And then I will just put it on. Since it's with number 1. And where did my 2 holes go? So it will be something like that. But there is something. No, I put in the wrong. I mean, the key should sit over here with number 1. Sorry. Yeah. So it's correct. There we have it. And then I load my screwdriver with the screw. So there. And since the holes are a little bigger than the actual screw, there is some possibility for make some adjustment if the pins are too tight against the gap in here. I mean the gap here. So one can make some adjustment. But let's see how it will go if I turn it. Wow, it feels really, really good. Oh. So it's better if you put in both key, and in that way put it to infinity as I see it, and then you will be able to actually adjust it more precisely, in my opinion. So as I did before, you could do it in that way and scribe a little off, and we do it again. So that's it. Maybe a little more than enough, but yeah, you can just wipe away a little. That's all fine, and put that in here. So, and in that way we'll also put that screw, one of the screw in here. So there, and the screw here, and we could just make a little make it a little tight and see how good it will be. Wow. So you can see you can almost turn it by one finger. Well, it's a bit greasy here, but it's really, really a huge difference. Wow, that's good, really good. Then gently tighten the screw, and we could, I mean, feel that we can just add a little some nail polish also if I have something. Something over here that could be useful. And just make a little tiny drop. Ugh, it stinks like. Ugh, don't like that smell. So now you have kind of locked the screw, and if you also tighten it gently and good, it should not just fall out. So next thing is the shiny metal ring, the what do you say, the meter scale. So we set it an infinity and also put that ring on where the infinity is. It must be here, something there. And since I set those marked before, I know exactly where things should sit. And then I can put the shiny ring on as to sit correct. It will say like this. And the screw holes also have to be in line with this, and something like that. Let's see how good it will be. Yeah. Then the black ring with the dot has also to come on with the index mark there. So it will be something like that. It has it sits a little tight, but just have to catch the holes and make. You probably have to turn the ring and the back plate here a little to catch the holes, and it can be a little tricky. But with a very pointy dentist tool, you could probably catch it there. There's one of those. Well, I should have loaded my screwdriver with one screw, and then I think I took the small, the 2mm, this one here, and catch the hole in here and simply screw it in. Now then we are almost done with this, and the second one, and now the third one. I think it will be really good, this whole lens. Tighten it good, not too much. There, and here we are. Now, where is my index mark? Is there, and all marks should be in line. So then I can try to turn it. Wow. Feels like new. Not really much energy I have to use to turn it. So that's really good. So next thing is, well, I can take the little spring and the aperture ring, yeah. So I will just take the little aperture click spring, and I need a little screw here, and can take another one maybe. Yeah, we'll just do so, and on with the spring. And since I also set those marks before I took out the spring here, it will be very easy to see where it should sit. And you can just use a tweezer, pointy tweezer, when you correct where it should sit. First screw in, and the second one. Then we are almost there with that. Tighten it good. Not too much. It's small screws. Now then I can put the aperture ring on. Has to sit correct, but I will also give it a little grease on the actual aperture ring, especially with the click. Doesn't have to be much. maybe a little more. And I can also give it a little round here where it goes against the back of the, I mean this area here. So put it on and then make it go around a little. Wow, that's really good. Then I can put in the aperture connection pin, the gap here, and it can only sit in one position, I mean one way. So you put it in, let's see, you have the gap here, and then you can put in the pin. Find the two holes here in the actual aperture ring, you see them here, and then add one screw there, and the next one, so there. And it is important to put the aperture ring on because it's not actual, and you also have to put in the mount before we put in the lens block, the lens assembly. So I just give it a little tighten. So there, that's all fine. Wow, good. Now we need to align with the distance scale to the actual focusing ring here. And of course I have my index mark, so it will not be a problem. That's quite easy, you can see here, just have to be in line. And I also have my two reference mark here on the back, which I actually set in the very beginning. And of course they should also be in line. So now I can put on the sticky double adhesive tape, which I think will be fine for this. It's 3M Scotch, which is really good for this. And you maybe wonder why I not use the original. Well, I do not have the original tape, but I know this will also work fine. And it has a good width, so it will fit very fine on this one. Just have to pull it a little so it will really fit good. And just one turn so it will sit there where we started, up to the beginning, a little over. So now it's not easy with gloves on. And now it's there where it should. And I can, I can actually put on the rubber ring here, and hopefully it will sit good. Because it is a little loose, this old rubber ring, but that's why I use double-sided sticky tape. So there, it'll be all fine. And we can just give it a go. Wow, that's really good, just like you. Now, put on the mount. And of course it can also only sit in one position. here it will be, let's say, we have 5 there, we have 5 there. Yeah, it has to sit in this position. You have the 5 screws there, 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 and there. And it has to sit in the same way. So just put it in and just catch where the holes are. There. That's all fine. 5 holes, yeah. Then put in the 5 screws here. And then we should put in the lens assembly. Let's say that's all fine. Then we have a lens with a very easy focusing ring. So when you tighten the screws in here, we do it there, there, and there, and then this and this, or this and this. So begin with this, 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 and then one of the two, doesn't matter. So here we are. Wow, that's all fine. Then I can set it to infinity. Let's see if it will work here. That's good. Now, then I can add the lens assembly. And as I described in the beginning, this pin here is the one that is connected to the fork in here. It's a little pin here. The other one, on the other hand, is going against the connection pin that again connect to the camera. So and it has to be fully closed. Of course, you can see this pin here. It's a spring loaded, so it will just close. But this one, on the other hand, open and close just like the aperture ring. So now we have the pin here and goes into the gap here. So we can just put it on in that way. Of course, we have to set the aperture ring to 22. It will make it a little easier to hopefully put it in. And we'll do it in that way here. Hopefully we can just slide it in. Can be a little tricky to catch the fork pin in there. Let's try again. It actually can help a little if you you have the middle of the pin here and you just make a tiny mark up here, which I already set earlier. So then you have a better view of where the little pin, this pin here, goes into the fork. It makes it a little easier. Then you should be able to slide it in. Can we turn the aperture ring and it will open and close? That's fine. How about the connection aperture pin? Well, it also works. So now I can just set it to near end and put on the lens hood thing. Remember the tiny screw here? We'll just put it on here. Then give it a little good tight. And then tighten the little set screw in here. And then we are done. Wow. Wow. That's really good. It's really good. That's fine. So, well, that was all actually from me this time. Hope you enjoy the content of this old lens with a very stiff focusing ring, and it's not that hard to do. Just remember to measure how the distance is, the how long from the front to the back, and from the inner, and also how many turns it takes to when the different helicoid gets off, and where it gets off you set an arrow. That's important, because there's not really any repair service manual for those lenses out there. Well, there are some, but well, I couldn't find any of this one. So hope you can use the info. That's all for me this time. There will be more videos sooner when I have the time. So that's all. Bye bye.